Small mistakes on your express entry profile can cause you to be ineligible for certain categories or immigration programs, or even worse, can cause you to miss out on points, causing your CRS score to be low and missing out on an invitation to apply for permanent residency in Canada. In this video, we're going to do a step-by-step walkthrough of how to create an express entry profile, mistakes to avoid, and when does your profile expire. If you find value after watching this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to this channel. Hi, I'm Christina, a 10-year-old Canadian immigrant and author of the book From Foreign Student to Canadian Citizen and Everything in Between. And I was part of the very first year of express entry in 2015. And I have seen some critical mistakes that caused somebody who was working for 2 years in Canada to not have their profile recognize them as a Canadian experience class. So let's get right into it. Alright, so here we are on the Government of Canada Create an Express Entry Profile page. Now to get to this page, you can just Google Create an Express Entry Profile in Google, and it usually is the first term that comes up. Now, there are two options here. You can go through a questionnaire to find out if you're eligible, or you can just sign into your account, which is probably the account that you would have already had when you applied for your study permit or your student visa or your post-graduation work permits. You want to sign into that portal. So we're going to click sign in to your account here. If you don't know if you're eligible, it would be helpful to do the fill out if you're ineligible form. But if you know that you are, you can go on into your secure account and choose express entry under I do not have a personal reference code, and it will run you through some of the similar questions. So we're going to go into sign into your account. Now, if you have an account, which you should, because your study permits, your post-graduation work permits, all of those applications would have be done through this platform. If you don't have an account, of course, create an account. Now, once you're signed in, you want to go to apply to come to Canada. And of course, if you did the questionnaire before getting to this point, you want to put your personal reference code here. If you don't have a personal reference code, you can click here under I don't have a personal reference code and click express entry. And it's going to walk you through a series of questions. Now, this is basic information, but it's going to be plugged into your express entry profile, so you don't want to make up anything, okay? Tip number one about your express entry profile: do not put anything in there that you cannot prove. So don't falsify information, misinformation, or being dishonest on your profile, or misrepresentation can cause you to be inadmissible to Canada for 5 years. So you don't want to be doing anything that is not truthful. This information though is just a profile. You don't have to prove anything until you get an invitation to apply for permanent residency. Okay? So which province do you want to live in, or where are you most interested in? Okay? Sure, Ontario. So if you're interested in another province, Alberta, one of the Atlantic provinces, by all means, please put that. Official language. You need to submit test results for a language test. Which language test did you take? I'm going to put IELTS. What date did you take the test? Remember, your language test results expire in 2 years. What score did you get for speaking? 9. Listening? 9. Reading? 7.5, not a good score, but it worked for me. 8.5, right? If you want to improve your score, by all means, improve your score. Next, do you have any other language results? So if you have the French, bon appetit. In the last 3 years, how many years of skilled work experience do you have in Canada? It must be full-time, and of course in a required tier. Like if you click on this, it gives you the information on what skilled work experience is and how that is assessed. Okay, so we're gonna say 1 year or more. During this period, which tier did you have this experience in? So I'm gonna say it was a tier category 2. Of course, if you go none of the above, then you're ineligible. Okay, none of the above, it's gonna go and it's gonna say you're not eligible for this thingy. So we're gonna say tier 2. Based on your results, you appear to be eligible for express entry. Okay. Now, when you get to single marital status, of course, if you have a spouse and you want to put married, and so therefore you add the results of your partner as well. and that will boost points on your profile. Usually. This stuff is the basic stuff. This is just going to get us to create a profile, and when you have to go in and put in your work history, all kinds of things. But this is just the beginning of where you need to be putting in your initial information. There we go. So now is where we get to the point where we're going to create our express entry profile. So let us say you haven't done the English test yet. Understand that this could be a process depending on how much you traveled, how much you've worked, right? So if you are not yet eligible, or you don't have the language test or the education credential assessment to join, start compiling the data, right? You can start compiling the data over on the side in a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet or something, or you can get to this point and create the express entry profile and change your language results after, before you submit, of course, because you're just going to make up that, yes, you did the language test, right? Just to get to this point, okay? But always remember to go in and change it. So for this profile now, you need to do your personal details, your contact details, language, application details, representative, and work history, right? So let us say if we're going to languages now, let us start this form. Education history and official languages. So under here is where you can go in now and put in your actual language test results when you take your results. And the reason why I'm recommending this is because you don't want to wait until the day you get your language test results to start the process. I don't recommend that, right? Sometimes, depending on what your schedule is like, it can be an extensive process. However, if you want to get it done in one day, then by all means, you can get it done in a few minutes. But if you want to start preparing yourself, you can get to this point of it and then just go in and edit your language test results before you hit submit. Okay, so on here, all the information is there and it is easily editable. And here you also have to put your test result certificate number. Okay, so you have to come into here anyway, because before you just gave them the results and you gave them the date you took the test, just so that they know that based on the date you took the test and your results, you're eligible. Because what if you got a 3 on your test? Then you're not eligible, right? So they want the information of the date of the language test and date of the results. So you're gonna have to come in and modify this anyway, and you're gonna want the test certificate number. So the test report number on your language test results, this is for IELTS, is right here, test report form number, and that's that number right here. CELPIP, it's going to look different, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be called out quite clearly that this is the report number, and this is the number you're going to take and you're going to put it into this field right here. Have you added French skills? Yes. Then it extends your form and you can add your French language results as well. So let us go in and see what each of these areas look like. Personal details. So your first name and last name is there. That's auto-populated from the questionnaire that you created before. Your gender and your date of birth is there. This is not editable. If you want to change the information in a locked field, you must return to the application summary page by clicking the save and exit button. So then you will go back and change it when you in the questionnaire that you would have created before you got to this point, okay? But it gives you that nice pop-up there. Country of birth, Jamrock. Okay, so tell us about the passport information. What's your passport and your ID? Do you have a passport? Yes. If you do, it's a passport. A1234567 country of issue, issue date, save and add. If you have any other passport because you have dual citizenship or whatever the case may be, you can add that, but I just need my one passport. Next, tell us about previous applications to Canada. Has Christina ever applied to IRCC before? Yes. Okay, I've applied for express entry before. No. If you have a UCI, please enter it now. So your UCI is usually an 8 to 10 digit number that is on your like study permit document or your Canadian visa. And that's basically like your ID within IRCC. If you know it, you put it. It's obviously not a required field because it doesn't have this little asterisk. So put it there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is my UCI. Okay, countries of citizenship. So now because I'm Jamaican, insert Delete row, I just need that one unless you have citizenship in another country. Country of residence, right now I reside in Canada as a temporary resident. Understand that if you're in Canada as a visitor, you do not reside in Canada. You reside in your country. If you are in Canada as a temporary foreign worker or a temporary resident under a study permit or study visa, then you can say you reside in Canada, but you must have some sort of legal status to say that you are residing in Canada. What is the province or territory of your residence? It's interesting that they've asked for this information. Now, if you've moved province, you want to go in and you want to change this information, okay? Always keep everything in there up to date. There's word in the streets that they added this postal code thing because they might be doing very selective regional based express entry draws in the future. Who knows what the purpose of this is for, but always keep it up to date. Do you have any family members, including yourself? So you're just one person, okay? Now, proof of funds requirement is relative to your situation. If you are working presently in Canada, you don't need to meet the proof of funds requirement on the table. If you are not currently working in Canada, you need to show that you have enough money. And how you find that out is the proof of funds for express entry table. So as of June 3rd, 2024, this is what the amount of money is needed for per person. So I'm just one person, so I'd put the $14,000. If you have two people, or if you have a child with a family, then you put what is required. So here's a section on who does not need proof of funds. You don't need to show proof of funds if you're applying under the Canadian Experience class, meaning that you're worked in Canada, or you are authorized to work in Canada and have a valid job offer, even if you apply under the Federal Skilled Worker Program or Federal Skills Trades Worker. And the valid job offer is not an LMIA or anything like that. It's just a job offer in an occupation that is allowed, that has just the relevant information. So it's not LMIA supported. It's if you have an LMIA, then fine, but it's not one that requires an LMIA. Okay, so people who are in Canada currently don't need proof of funds. So here you also want to be very truthful about how much money you actually can show on paper that you have. So let's say you put $10,000, you're going to need to show a bank account or some sort of asset or something that show $10,000. But my condition is I am in Canada. I have a job in Canada right now. I'm on a work permit and I'm joining the express entry pool. Note that it says you are authorized to work in Canada as you have a valid job and you have a valid job offer. Okay, as a student, you may not be able to prove this, so you need to know what this amount is relative to your situation. Next, relatives in Canada. Do you have any relatives in Canada right now? So does Christina has a relative who is a citizen or permanent resident in Canada? Yes. Is this person is an aunt in Ontario? And that is all my family information here. Save and exit. And this section of the profile is complete. Next, we're going to do the contact details. So they want my language of correspondence. So I'm English speaking, and my address, email address. And there's my email address. It's very easy, that section here. Study and languages. Continue form. Okay. So we will assess Christina's secondary and post-secondary period of study for express entry eligibility, right? Has Christina finished high school or any other higher education, including university or college or training? Yes. Okay. Field of study. So we're going to start from the most recent down to the oldest. Okay. So the only thing that really matters to this point is the ones that, of course, you're going to be able to prove through an ECA and to show that you have some level of high school education. But if you want to, so if you're in school in Canada right now, I studied business management and something in, let's say, 2023. Is this my current study? No. So I finished it in 2023 in August. Complete full academic years, 1 year, right? 8 months is 1 year. 1 semester of or 2 semesters of a school is 1 year. So even if the semesters are consecutive, which means that they're 8 months straight and there's no summer break, or they're broken apart, 8 months is 1 school year. Full-time study, which is a requirement for a lot of the points and stuff that you must do. Standing at the end, so I completed it. I got a certificate or a degree or diploma award. Country of study, we're gonna say Canada. Write the proper name for your school. Humber College is like the Humber Institute of Technology. So you want to write the correct name of your school. So look for the actual legal name of your school. Level of education. So it was a 1-year college program. Was Christina awarded a Canadian degree or diploma after this study? Yes. Right, I got a certificate. Was it from a public institution, private secondary school, or a bachelor's? Yes, because it was from a public post-secondary college. What is the DLI number of the school? Okay, so now is where you can go to the site. They've given you this handy link to go here. You go and you find your school, Humber College. Here's the DLI. You put that DLI in here. That's going to be important to know if the college is even PGWP eligible or whatever the case may be, right? Was more than half of the study in English or French as a second language course? No. So this is like if you came to Canada and studied English as a course, right? So more than half of the study program, English or French as a second language course? No. Did Christina study in Canada based on an award that required them to go back to their home country? No. So this is for people who got like a grant or a scholarship that is specifically like go to Canada. So this includes some of the awards from the Global Affairs Canada. Those people are usually not eligible. Did you do at least 50% of your study in person? Yes. Okay. Now, so for the people who studied during COVID, that's a little bit different. So you want to say no. Everything was online if that was the case, and I'm sure that a combination of that answer and the dates when you studied matters to understand whether this was allowed or not. But now after September of 2024, you can't, no more online studies. That was a COVID measurement. Did Christina study in Canada for 8 months in order to earn this degree? At least 8 months. Yes. Did Christina study full-time for at least 8 months in order to earn this degree? Yes. Save and add. Okay, so that is my education in Canada. Then you want to put your education in your home country. Degree. Okay, so here's where it's going to ask you about your ECA. Okay, because if you say that I don't have an ECA for this, they're not going to count it because they don't know if it's equivalent to Canadian education. So usually your ECA is done for your highest level of education, but it depends on your personal situation. Like, what if your master's is in a slightly different field than your bachelor's, and your bachelor's is what you're going to use to get the job in healthcare, for example, right? Then the healthcare related education matters and needs to show Canadian equivalency. So it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. So here on the Canadian government website for the ECA for express entry, who needs one for express entry? And they're saying in most cases, you only need an assessment for the highest level of education. For example, if you have a master's degree, you only need an assessment for that degree, and you don't need one for your bachelor's degree. However, I think that it is going to be circumstantial and based on your personal situation. Get advice from an immigration consultant or lawyer to know whether you should go ahead and get this education assessed. But if you have a degree that qualifies you for a job that is on the in-demand list and the master's isn't quite in line with that, then I would reconsider this blanket statement and get some professional advice. Okay, so has Christina received an ECA in the past 5 years for this degree? And I'm going to say yes. The organization was World Education Services, and the report was issued in 2023. I got it done early because you know me, getting it done early. And the certificate number. So you want to put your certificate number in there from your certificate. It's going to be different depending on which company you did it to. Just so you know, West is not the only one that does it, as you can see here on this list. And the University of Toronto, so I just had somebody share with me that their University of Toronto application was submitted or received by them on the 7th of October and was approved and given an evaluation by the 14th. So very quick turnaround time. So if you're shopping around, you can consider the University of Toronto. Okay, so you're going to put your certificate number in, and the level of education that your ECA report will tell you that is equivalent to. So it is equivalent to a bachelor's or degree, right? Because that's what my level of study is, and it was equivalent to a bachelor's. Save and add. Okay, now you can go on and put in your high school education. It is not as relevant because, of course, if to have come to these programs here, you would have had to have a minimum high school. But let's just see what happens if you put in your high school. So field of study, we're gonna say other, since what year. So secondary or high school diploma, was it in Canada? No. And did you get an ECA for this? No. Save and add. Right? Anything you didn't get an ECA for, it doesn't count. So then now I've put in that I've gone to high school, I've gone to university, I have a bachelor's that has a West evaluation, and I've gone to school in Canada for 1 year. So I'm going to say next. And this is where it comes back to the language test, which you're going to go in and double check to make sure that you've put in the correct results. So I've put it in my results as is based on my certificate. My certificate number is in language version, general. Okay, so we're going to save and exit, and now that part is complete. Application details. So now, which provinces or territories would you consider living in? So now you can check all of the provinces just in case you're open to another province inviting you to apply for a provincial nominee. I recently met somebody who was in Prince Edward Island and got an invitation to apply for Ontario provincial nominee and relocated to Ontario. So let us say you are interested in all of the Atlantic provinces, which is usually a good idea. Everybody's not interested in Ontario, of course. And let's say you're also interested in Saskatchewan. You can also click all provinces and territories if you'd like, or selected ones. Okay, some people don't want to go to Northwestern Territories or Yukon, but if you're open to it, put it on there. Okay, Ontario, yes. Has Christina received a nomination certificate from a province or a territory? We wish. No. Okay, so that one is completed and that's done. Representative. Now, are you using a representative, a legal representative, or somebody to help you with this process? If yes, click yes. If no, say no. You can have a designated individual, which could be a friend or a family member who can get information on your profile on your behalf, or you have a legal representative, which is usually like a paid consultant, a lawyer. So we're going to say no, or you're going to say both. No. If that's the case, unless you have help. Now the work history. Now this is where a lot of problems come in to being in a specific category, getting the right points, all of that wonderful jazz. So at the top here, your primary occupation, this is just a general section here, not speaking specifically to work experience that you have currently, right? But how you want them to view you as a professional in the workforce. Okay, so are you in a NOC that is in an in-demand occupation? Are you in a NOC that gets you into a category-based draw at a provincial level? That is some research that you're going to have to do. So this is saying, like, what do you want immigration to view your profile under as your main work experience? Okay, this is how we determine your eligibility for federal programs. Obviously, it's going to have to be tier 3 or above. That's how you're in here anyway. And you need to know the job title for the NOC and primary occupation. So let us say that you are a pharmacy assistant. Maybe you don't have a job right now. You don't need to have a job right now, but you've worked in the pharmacy field and know that when you come into Canada, you can be a pharmacy assistant, whatever the case is. You put that knock there. If you're not necessarily in an in-demand occupation and none of your work history or your current work history says is of consequence to you being selected in an express entry pool, you can put your present knock for the job that you have right now, unless it's not in a tier category, and then you can put the knock in your past experience. So let's say when I was in my country, I worked for 5 years as an architect, but now I'm in Canada and I am a draftsperson. I would put my architect knock, not my draftsperson knock, because architect is on the list of in-demand occupations, and I have all the requirements to call myself an architect. Now, if you're in a regulated profession, you have to understand what that means at this level. However, I can put that, okay, I'm an architect, and these are the things that I did as an architect. Here's my work experience. Here's my certificate of registration as an architect in whatever country that I practiced in, right? So for this, if I was working as an architect in my country, would put architect, even though if I'm in Canada and I'm not an architect. Here's the cliff notes for that, right? So it's the job. Primary occupation is the job you have experience in and that we will use to assess you if it meets the minimum requirements. Note, your occupation may not be your most recent experience. It is the job you have that required experience in and want to base your application on. If you do not have the minimum work experience in the primary occupation that you choose, you may not be eligible, or you may be ineligible, right? So if I wanted to put architect, I can put an architect if I have the requirements on the architect list. Okay, so search by job title. Okay, so an architect usually has a bachelor's degree, registration with the provincial regulatory board is required in all provinces and the Northwestern Territories. Completion of the architect registration examination. You want to make sure that whatever is on here in terms of your main duties, employment requirements, or any additional information is something that you can justify or validate if you are claiming this knock. The same goes for any work experience that you're showing on your profile that is making you eligible as a federal skilled worker and Canadian experience class. The knock can make or break your application. Your PR application can be rejected if you have the wrong knock. If you've chosen a knock that doesn't match your job description and puts you in a tier that you are not really in, and that makes you eligible for express entry. So you want to choose this wisely and carefully. If you are having any hiccups with regards to this, if you are working in a job right now in Canada, or if you've been given a job offer in Canada, or your last occupation, using that knock and making sure that what is on the list of duties and employment requirements on the knock system, make sure that it matches. Okay, so what date did you first become qualified to practice this occupation? So we're gonna say when I finished school and I did the licensing exam and whatever the case may be. So we're gonna say 2023 in September. Next, does Christina have a certificate of qualification from a province or a territory? No. So that is usually for trade occupations, so skilled trades. So here we go. So some skills trades in Canada, only provinces or territories that use and issue certificates. So we're gonna say no. Usually like a plumber, if that's a trade that is regulated. Do you have a job offer in Canada? This section now I find that people usually get confused by, and usually this section will speak to whether you are eligible for points with a positive LMIA or not. This section, you can either say yes or no. It's inconsequential if you don't have an LMIA supported or LMIA exempt job offer or a closed work permit, right? So let us say you fill out this area, right? Because you are on an open work permit. Here's how you're going to do that, right? So the job offer must be full-time, 1 year, non-seasonal, federal skilled worker. Is that the case? Yes. Is the job offer work that is full-time continuous for 1 year? Yes. Is the job offer for non-seasonal? Yes. What's the 5-digit NOC code? So you're going to know this 5-digit NOC code here. I just put it in something random. So say, for instance, I'm an accounting technician or a bookkeeper. That is in a tier 2. And my title is a bookkeeper. How many employers made this job offer? Just one. Is the employer an embassy? No. Is the employer ineligible? Usually people in like the exotic industry or drugs or something crazy. Employer information, the company name, the company address, and this address could just be like maybe the address of the head office. So they have that here, that if this is the head office and the head office has like a main location and then there's different branches, then you're going to put the head office here and then the branch that you're working at here. If it just so happens to be the same and there's only one address, then there's just one address, right? So you're going to put that it is in the same place, on this street, in this province. So here now it says, was a positive labor market impact assessment issued for this job? So you're going to say no, right? The options are there. So there's no real way to get this wrong, even if you fill it out and you're not supposed to fill it out if that's the situation, right? But you can fill it out because it's not saying, do you have an LMIA supported job offer? It just asks if you have a job offer. So was a positive labor market assessment issued for this job? No. Is Christina currently working in Canada? Yes. Does Christina have a valid work permit for the job in Canada? Yes, right? Because I have an open work permit. Is Christina's job offer from an employer named on your work permit? No, because my work permit is an open permit. Has Christina been working full-time for the employer for at least 1 year? And this could be yes for you or no for you. So let us say I have been working for at least 1 year, okay? NOC code. So this is where like this is an extensive list, right? It has a NOC codes, but right at the bottom of the list is open. Okay, so I know sometimes you can go in and get confused. You're like, oh, I don't even have a NOC here, so maybe I shouldn't be answering this question, blah blah blah. It's right at the bottom, open work permits. And probably even if you come in and if you type O, you'll get to the open work permit if you don't have that scrolly thing on the side. I have a magical mouse that lets me like infinity scroll. Was a positive labor market assessment issued for the current work permit? And there's a couple of options here. So there's yes, if that's the case, no, or just no, flat out no. My employer permit is exempt from an LMIA due to international agreement. My work permit is exempt from an LMIA due to federal. My work permit is exempt from an LMIA for other reasons and is employer specific. So that could be the case if that's for you, or if it's an open work permit, we're just gonna say no. So in that section there is where you would claim that 50 points in the event that you get an LMIA or an LMIA exempt job offer from one of the provinces that have employers that are LMIA exempt. Usually Atlantic provinces or rural and northern. Work history. So this is where you're going to come and say all of the things that you've done. This is where it's easy to get wrong as well. If you've been working in Canada part-time while you were in school and transitioned out of school straight into a full-time position in that job. When you have that situation, you're going to enter 2 separate entries for that, because you cannot say that you worked part-time and full-time at the same time in one information field, right? So here's what we're going to do. So do you have any work history? Yes. When? So we're going to say, when did I go to school again? So we're going to say in 2023, when I came to Canada, I got a job in February, right? We're not going to say this is my current job, even if it is my current job, because when I was in school, I was only allowed to work part-time, right? So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that ended by September of that year, 2023, September, okay? Hours per week, I worked 20 hours per week, and I kept within that, or 15, whatever the case may be. NOC code, we're going to put administrative officer. That's nice and safe. So you are project coordinator, right? Company XYZ, DYX, and you were in Canada. province in Ontario, in Toronto. Do any of the following conditions apply? Legally working in Canada. You must have had a valid work permit or exempt from needing one. You had legal status the whole time you were in Canada, and you not stayed longer than the approved time period. So we're going to say yes, you were working legally during this time, because as a student you can legally work within the amount of the specified time frame. Okay. Studying full-time while doing this job, we're going to say yes. And which of these categories does your job fall under? No work permit required. So for students, if you have the ability to work on your study permit but you don't have a work permit, then this is no work permit required because you were on your study permit and you could work. If you have a post-graduation work permit, you could say work permit required, no LMIA required, because you have a PGWP, right? So save and add. So that was my part-time work experience when I was working at this company in Canada while I was in school. So I'm going to do the same company now, and I'm going to say that I do have some work history. And in September of 2023, this is my current job. I started working full-time at 40 hours per week. And the NOC code was the administrative officer. Oh my God. Administrative officer, and you're a project coordinator. Do the following conditions apply? Legally working in Canada? Yes. Studying full-time? No. Which of these? Work permit required? No LMIA required, because I have an open work permit. So those are my 2 work experiences in Canada at the same company, well, part-time while I was in school and full-time when I was out of school. Do not put these 2 together as one line item. You want to put it as separate ones, because you can't say that you worked in this section here when it asks how many hours per week. You can't put 20 and 40 at the same time, right? And you don't want to incriminate yourself to say that you worked 40 hours a week while you were studying, okay? Because that's not legal, okay? So that's this question where them ask you about the legal work permit rara, you're going to have to tell them no, you weren't illegally working overtime, okay? So now we're going to say that I worked also as a federal skilled worker. So now this is where you are going to be adding any more work experience that you have, especially the ones that qualify you for federal skilled worker and Canadian experience class. Don't put anything there that you cannot prove. Don't put anything there that nobody is going to be able to substantiate. You will need a letter showing an employment letter and or pay stubs to prove that yes, I did work at this place. A job letter also to say that, okay, not job letter, but a letter of employment, past employment, to say that I worked here, these were my duties, this is how much I got paid, this is the duration of my work, and we can get into that, what that letter should look like. But anything that you put here, you need to be able to substantiate. So this section is just research questions. IRCC will only use this for research, and they won't use this information against you or for your profile. You can choose to answer these questions or not. I'm going to say no, and I'm going to save and exit. And my profile is complete. So now that all of this information is in, and I can for sure prove that I have my language results, you want to go in and just double check that you've completed everything correctly and all of the dates match up. Inadmissibility and misrepresentation can happen even if it was a genuine mistake. So you don't want to add any information on there that is not truthful, especially if you get an invitation to apply and you don't catch that mistake, okay? Because your inadmissibility can be as a result of an innocent mistake, even if the mistake was that of your representative. So if somebody else is filling this out for you, make sure that you double check. If you are filling it out, make sure that you double check and or get somebody else to be a second pair of eyes for you on your profile. Now that you've completed your profile, you've done everything that you need to do, you haven't submitted it yet, you have 60 days left to submit it, right? So you can't just have this filling out and letting it hang out there eternally. You have 60 days to submit it, or it's going to delete, self-destruct, and you're going to have to redo it. So you want to make sure that you're doing this within a window that you're reasonably going to submit it. So let us say I want to go in and make some changes. Continue profile. So now if you double check your work, and maybe you got your birthday wrong or something, here you can modify your family information, which will update your birthday or anything. So let's say, oops, it was actually March the 2nd, update information. All right. So now we're going to continue. This is at the point now where you're going to say that I've double checked everything. Everything is correct. Remember that when you are in the express entry pool, you also open yourself up to be invited to apply for a provincial nomination. See here that they share your information with the provinces that you show interest in, and they can potentially give you an invitation to apply for a nomination. Okay, they'll not have access to your information, so any communication will happen through your online account. Note, misrepresenting yourself on an application may result in legal action and removal. This is why you can't tell any lies on this thing. In addition, misrepresentation may result in being banned from Canada for up to 5 years. Once submitted, this profile will be part of your immigration record. So don't tell no lies. I will update my express entry profile once any of the information or the answers in my situation changes. I agree. Once you've submitted your express entry profile, you're going to see this. Congratulations, you've successfully submitted your application. Step 1, you'll receive a message, so check your email. Step 2, if we need more information from you to receive a decision, they're going to be sending you correspondence. Don't send any information until you are required to, and the processing times may vary. So now if I exit the questionnaire, it will take me right back out to the main profile. And now it shows where my express entry profile moved from continue to an application to view a submitted application. So now that your application has been submitted, it's going to tell you whether you qualify as a federal skilled worker under provincial nominee, Canadian experience class, or federal skills trades. Now, if you know that you are a federal skilled worker and you're seeing not met here, you need to go in and check your work history to see what mistake you made. Usually, if you put that you were fully employed while you were fully enrolled in school, it doesn't usually contribute towards a federal skilled worker category, because maybe you didn't become eligible for that occupation until after you finished school. So then you have to go back in and check that if you know that you qualified as a federal skilled worker and it's not showing up here. Okay, you want to make sure that you show the start times, the end times, you weren't full-time employed, how many hours of work did you do the minimum 30 hours a week. So this person here would need to, of course, double check to make sure that they met the minimum requirements for a federal skilled worker. So let's see what we got for the age. Like prime age is between 20 and 29, I believe. Level of education, you got lots of education here. Your language proficiency, you didn't have any spouse, your education and work experience, and your Canadian education. You got points for that. So your Canadian education, so if you went to school for about 1 to 2 years, then you're only going to get 15 points. If you went to school for 3 years or more, then you get 30 points on your express entry profile. So here is the CRS tool. Here is the CRS tool, right? And down on the CRS tool where you get additional points, they show you that, okay, if you had a brother or sister. So even though I put my aunt, even though you have an aunt in Canada, you don't get any points for that. But if you went to school in Canada for 3 years or longer, 30 points. If you went to school 1 to 2 years, 15 points. Okay, and then you have to just double check here. So let's now say that you notice that, okay, this federal skilled worker thing never really worked out for me. I should really change that. Let's see what happens. You can go in and edit your profile. So let us go in and edit the profile. So to edit your profile, you want to go right up to the top here. We're under Express Entry Profile Status and say View Your Profile. Click that here, and then you want to change the work history. So let us update form. So this is how you update your profile now. So let's go to work history, and I think for my work experience here, I put that I only worked 20 hours a week. So let us do 35 hours a week. Save and add. Save and exit. Continue to submit the changes. Now let's say you know that you're a federal skilled worker, or you know you're an Canadian experience. This is where you need to go in, check your work history. check to see if there's anything concurrent with when you go into school, like a nice spreadsheet with all of your dates of when you went to school, when you worked, when you started and you stopped, would be able to see like if there's an overlap or anything that is causing you to be not eligible for the federal skilled worker program. Okay, so this is something that you want to check out. If you find that you are stuck on having not met and you don't know what to change, this is where you need to go and seek professional help. If this is saying that I'm not met for this one, I'm not capitalizing on the points that I'm supposed to have capitalized on for foreign work experience, but also I'm not eligible for a federal skilled worker draw if a general draw comes that's not experience, Canadian experience class, for example, which is highly unlikely. They either have general or Canadian experience class. But what I'm saying is that if you are supposed to be a federal skilled worker, or if you're supposed to be a Canadian experience class and it's not working out for you, you need to go in and check your details. And this is where I see a lot of the mistakes being made, where the dates don't match up or the number of hours you work don't add up and you're not able to claim the points that you are supposed to make. Get professional help to get that part sorted out. Now that you're in the pool, in another video, we're going to cover what to do now that you're in the pool. You're swimming around. What do you do now? So that is how you create your express entry profile. It is not a labor intensive process. It is you take a little bit of time to do it because you want to make sure that you got your dates right, you got your information correct, you are not posing yourself as inadmissible because you made a mistake or anything. So you definitely want to make sure, double check, triple check, submit that profile and keep it up to date. If anything changes, keep it up to date. Now, your express entry profile is valid for 1 year. So on the top here, you will see an expiry date of the profile. That is when you want to keep an eye on it, because when it expires, if you find that you've done something more to gain more points, or if your situation has changed to improve your chances, you want to rejoin the express entry pool every time it expires. It costs nothing. As long as your language results are valid, your educational credential assessment is valid, you should be rejoining this pool. Now, top mistakes: don't get your knock wrong. Okay, get your knock right in terms of the job work experience that you are claiming, as well as your primary overall knock that you want them to base your profile on. You also want to double check the information to make sure that nothing is incorrect. You want to ensure that whatever you put on your profile, you can prove once you get an invitation to apply for permanent residency. And another mistake. Now you see where you're getting points for your Canadian education. You want to ensure that you are putting in the right amount of education, the right type of education, the right country. I've seen mistakes with putting the wrong country on there, and this can cause you to miss out on points. If your program is a 2-year program or a 3-year program, it makes a difference in the points between a 2-year and a 3-year program. So you want to be making sure that you're getting this information correct. Double check, triple check. Now, if you find yourself going into the pool kind of knowing that based on your points, you're going to be getting an invitation to apply, you need to start preparing for the success when it shows up. Okay, so if you have work experience on there and you haven't contacted your employer in however long, you're going to need to reach out to that employer to get a letter to justify that you did this job and these duties. You're going to need to have all of these things in place for when you get an invitation to apply. There is a time period for which you get to apply for permanent residency once you get an invitation to apply. You have 60 days after you're invited to apply to submit an application. In that 60 days, you're going to need to get your police certificates. You're going to need to get your proof of employment letters, your pay stubs, your proof of income. If you're going to show that you have money in the bank, you're going to need to show your job letter for your current company to show that your knock meets the knock that you said that you're claiming, to make sure that you're in the right tier and category and all of that, right? You want to have your documents scanned and ready to upload, your passport, your work permit, any other relevant documents. All of that will come through on your invitation to apply on your permanent residency application once you get it. But you want to have yourself poised and ready to capitalize on that 60 days window that you have. Some places, the police record might take longer than others. So sometimes, right? At the discretion of where you're coming from, the officer, all of these things. If you've submitted your request for your police record in your country, but it is a 90-day processing time, you can submit the receipt that you have submitted and paid for this service and are waiting for it, and you're going to need to attach this or update your profile with it. Once you receive the actual document, you're gonna have to submit a correspondence to add it to your profile, right? But if you can ahead of time, if you see that, you know, I have enough points, I'm likely to get an invitation to apply, although it's unpredictable, and you can get your police certificate going, you definitely want to try get that going, right? Police certificates are usually valid for 6 months after they were issued, and so take that into consideration and the processing time for all of the things that you need to prove the information that you have just submitted on your express entry profile. Don't let the time run out and you don't submit an application, because another invitation to apply is not guaranteed. Now, nothing will be held against you if you do not accept the invitation to apply. Say, for instance, the invitation to apply came with the points that you were eligible for at the time of the ITA, and between the invitation to apply and submitting the profile, something changed. You turned 50, or you aged 1 more year, you lost 5 points, and now you are out of the rank that they called. You definitely want to not accept that invitation to apply, because now you are no longer eligible for what you've been called for. Okay, if anything is confusing to you, please seek professional help from a consultant or a lawyer and get somebody to look over your profile if you are unsure about anything. If you find that you are in the pool, your points are in a state where you don't seem to be getting an invitation to apply in the near future because the points are high, they're unpredictable, you need to be pursuing other immigration routes. And I said this also in my last video on top mistakes that international students and post-graduation work permit holders are making to cause themselves to miss out on PR. And one of those top reasons is they're not joining the express entry pool because of 6 big mistakes that they're making. So you can go and check that out if you haven't already. And if you've seen it on already and you are seeing this video now and you are an international student or post-graduation work permit holder in Canada, join my masterclass and community where you can learn about your alternative options if you realize that express entry isn't it. In any case, I don't think anybody should be putting all their eggs in the express entry basket, because as you can see, it's predictable, the scores are high, there is so much that you can do to increase your points, which we will talk about in another video. But if you are open to exploring other options, which I think you should be at this point, then join the masterclass, understand what the options are, and see where you can capitalize on other immigration programs. If this video has been at all helpful, please hit that like button. Consider subscribing to this YouTube channel and share this video with anybody who you think it may be helpful for. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.